What do you say to that group that says, Adam, I'm not you, man. Okay, you have a college, you don't have a college degree, neither do I, but I don't think I could be a successful businessman. How do you get them to understand the things they already know and the attributes they possess would play very well in a lot of businesses, and for them not to be insecure about that move?
Shawn, this is really interesting because I get this question a lot, not just from law enforcement, but also from military. And they all think that, okay, I've got this law enforcement military background of some sort, corrections background, ran into somebody from corrections the other day, and they all feel like they have to go into some sort of security director or security consulting position, which that's a bunch of BS. You don't. The reality is, what do people do in public service? People in public service meet strangers, they learn about their challenges, and they help them solve those problems through relationships.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Punch Me in the Face. I am really beyond honored to have Adam Contos with us. Now, Adam, we have, I'll be really straight up with you. I always will be with everybody. I'm reading, like your one sheet and some information on you. And I think I'm always excited to have people on because it would be disrespectful not to. But I don't know if I've been more excited to have somebody on, Adam, because the stuff you talk about, what you write about, the theories, when you start talking about party with the beast and lose the ego, like, dude, that's just stuff that makes a lot of sense to me. I love your background. Ironically, I worked at Remax. That was my first, which is really crazy. That was my first real estate gig. Went to the police academy. My police career and your police career were complete opposites. I made it 4.5 months, never led the SWAT team, never did my deal, went to Child Protective Services worker. But I'm honored to have you on the show today, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Hey, it's good to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me on here.
You got it. It's my pleasure. And Adam, to give you some background, we who I think we have a lot of is, I was talking to a mutual friend. I was talking to Steve one day about what we're going to talk about, and he said, man, all the stuff you talk about is like getting back up off your ass, getting knocked down. How do you do that? What does it look like? What's it feel like? Thus, way the name Punch Me in the Face. And I think we have a lot of entrepreneurs on here. I've changed my mind. A while back I had read so much stuff that was crap, training that was crap, but I've also realized there's really good people. Like when I read, and I've read quite a bit because I was intrigued by your background. So if you wouldn't mind, could you kind of talk to us quick? Because you start talking about your diversity and background. Can you just kind of walk us through how this journey started? Please, include some of the SWAT things really intriguing to me. But if you could just kind of give us a basis and a foundation, I have a lot of stuff I'd love to get to after that, sir.
Sure, yeah. So day after I graduated high school, I joined the Marine Corps. So everybody was going to parties. I was going to boot camp. So went off and did that. I got into law enforcement really young. I got into the Marine Corps Reserves pretty quickly after a lot of training, active duty time, things like that. And then I wanted to be a cop. My dad was in federal law enforcement. He worked on organized crime quite a bit, kind of the mafia type thing. And my uncle was in the Marine Corps. So it was kind of a mixture of both of those. So I got into law enforcement relatively young. I went to police academy when I was 21 and then got hired relatively quickly for street work to be a street cop just on the south side of Denver here. Got into that. I tried going to college. I was a 2-time college dropout. It really didn't work for me. I didn't want to hear from somebody who'd never done it telling me how to do it. I don't believe in academia. I believe in experience. And this coming from somebody who teaches at a business school now. So, I have a problem with people who telling you how to do something if they've never done it themselves. So I dropped out of school twice, worked my way up in law enforcement, got on the SWAT team because of my military background. I just enjoyed the tactics, the elite unit, and the reliance upon each other for maximum opportunity and potential. So got into that, trained really hard, became the SWAT commander, did a couple years undercover in a narcotics unit. So spent 2 years undercover on the streets of Denver. That was a hell of a time. I learned sales while I was there. There's no better school for sales than the DEA narcotics investigator school. So learned sales, started a couple companies, and then eventually Remax liked one of my products, one of my companies, my security consulting company. I was doing counterterrorism instruction, homeland security instruction, teaching sniper schools and SWAT schools. And I created a real estate agent safety program based upon how I was telling cops to stay safe on the street, how not to get killed doing your job. So they hired me for the real estate industry, worked for National Association of Realtors, Women's Council of Realtors, RE/MAX, taught these classes around the real estate industry to keep agents safe. And then RE/MAX pulled me in and said, why don't you come consult our businesses? You're doing pretty good right now. Went in RE/MAX at entry level and worked my way up to be the CEO and board director. So it was kind of a fun ride. I went and got an MBA in the process because I knew at some point I had to run a public company. But we're 2-time college dropout to CEO.
Wow. So you're running the SWAT team. You're a commander. You're a police officer. You're serving the community. Marine. I don't say ex-Marine because I understand that people get mad. Like Marine forever. I got that part down by listening to everybody. So you're a Marine,
that's right?
Because we have a lot of people, actually a lot that work with us, engage with us, that are correction officers, they're law enforcement, they're federal, state, local. And a lot of them have kind of come, first they were coming to us saying, hey, I have 20 years and out kind of this hazardous duty. I'm going to have to do something when I get older. But more recently, Adam, we've had a lot say, hey, where I am right now, I need a change. For whatever reason it is, financially, a lot of it is just what's going on. They say to me, the job's not what it was before, but I'm concerned about my ability to make money. I don't have any college education, right? Like I'm where you are. I went to college to play baseball. I went and took my ASFABs at 17 when I graduated high school. I wanted to be a Marine. My mother decided that, it's a long story, but I had family members that were in the military, and somehow she thought if I joined like them, I'd end up like them. I was like, that don't make any sense. She said, you're going to college. I went to college just to play baseball, and I was a business major for a very short period of time, but the struggle I had was none of the people that were teaching. They weren't you. They didn't have any business experience. So I became a social work major purely because all the men and women that were teaching it, they were in the field. Like they were doing child protective services. We did a lot of law enforcement. I have a criminal justice minor. So they were people on the streets that did, like they were teaching me things they were doing. Adam, how do you walk? Because you'll be better at this than me because it's your background and you've had an insane amount of success. What do you say to that group that says, Adam, I'm not you, man. Okay, you have a college, you don't have a college degree, neither do I, but I don't think I could be a successful businessman. How do you get them to understand the things they already know and the attributes they possess would play very well into a lot of businesses, and for them not to be insecure about that move?
Shawn, this is really interesting because I get this question a lot, not just from law enforcement, but also from military. And they all think that, okay, I've got this law enforcement military background of some sort, corrections background, ran into somebody from corrections the other day, and they all feel like they have to go into some sort of security director or security consulting position, which that's a bunch of BS. You don't. The reality is, what do people do in public service? People in public service meet strangers, they learn about their challenges, and they help them solve those problems through relationships. So it's a trust relationship game of how do you come into these things and help people solve problems. That's ultimately what law enforcement, what corrections, what child protective services, things like that are. They're problem solvers. So if you take a look at that aspect of your career and your fabric of your being as a human being, and you say, okay, how can I apply this to business, be it insurance, be it real estate, be it, automotive, be it, franchising, who knows what it is, go solve problems. And you can't solve problems until you go out and build relationships. So you start with that foundation of you're walking up to somebody fresh on the street. You got a smile on your face or a scowl, pick one. They're not going to want to talk to you if you have the scowl. It goes to fists real quick that way. So you want to walk up with a smile and go, hey, how's it going? What can I do to help you? And then start unpacking the solutions to that. That's what businesses want, is problem solvers with great personalities and action-taking mentalities.
So you take, because they have amazing skill sets. First of all, a lot of people do. The things you've been through. I tell people, I was in a group the other day, I said, how many of you are parents? You have unbelievable skill sets. Right? I mean, like, think about the things you've learned to do. I'm really interested in this whole party with the beast concept, because I think we have a lot of people that my world is independent. Like when I went to RE/MAX, it was, I was 22, and I went in this office in Norwich, Connecticut, and a lady had just taken, she had left another company and she was now a RE/MAX affiliate. Very excited. I was excited because they seem to have a lot of energy. And I went into a meeting with like 25 people. And the lady did this whole presentation. I had already been with a real estate company, another one for 3 months. And she said, you have two options if you join RE/MAX. This was a long time ago. First option, you pay me a desk fee of $850 a month. And there's some other ancillary marketing stuff that came to like $1,200 a month. And you get whatever commission it was, 95% if I'm thinking right. Or you can pay me like nothing and get 55%. And so the meeting got done and we waited. And I waited because I wanted to talk to her because I was really excited. So everybody went through the whole deal. And I said, hey, her name was Barry. I said, Barry, I'm in. Like totally in. Love the concept. I obviously want to do the one with the higher commission. And she said, okay. And she signed me up, did my desk. Where's my desk? And I said, if you don't mind me asking, how many of the people here chose that option? And she said, none. You were the only one. And I said, they chose lower comp. She goes, yeah, but they didn't want any of the fees. And Adam, I had a social work degree. I never professed to be that smart either. But I was like, wow, I might do really good in sales because they were already so emotional about the fees. They were so worried. They were so worked up and nothing had even happened yet. Walk us through that. And I'm just crazy curious. Party with the Beast is a really badass name. Walk us through that with the emotion and controlling it and the chaos. And obviously you've lived through a lot of that. What's your best advice for the people watching today to be successful in that place?
Well, Shawn, I think a big part of this was you didn't live in that fear that these other people have, this minimalist approach to things. You were going, okay, how can I maximize my opportunity, maximize my potential here? Which is why you chose the, while slightly riskier version. You know, a lot of people want some sort of a minimum income, or they don't want to put everything at stake. But you looked at it and you said, I want to put everything at stake to maximize my opportunity here. The fear left you at that point. The beast that you're talking about is that fear within us. We all have this fear that makes us doubtful, overwhelmed, that makes us slow down, hesitate, makes us wonder whether or not we're capable of doing the things that we know we're capable of doing, but we're second guessing ourselves now. It's that imposter syndrome. It is when you're a SWAT officer and you're standing outside that door, you're about to breach this door and go into this building where there's somebody who might be trying to kill you. And you start wondering, ooh, am I going to get hurt going through here? And what does that do? It causes you to hesitate and you don't do what you're supposed to do. That's what gets you killed, is that hesitation, not the decision-making process, the hesitation of not having confidence in yourself. So I was taught a long time ago by an amazing SWAT commander who's since passed. His name is Bruce. Bruce told me that inside all of us is this fear. Let's call it the beast. And the beast causes you to act or not act. You have a choice to make. That beast is inside that room, that building, that location that you're going to. You can choose to go in and fight with the beast and wonder about yourself and whether or not you will be able to do your job with the beast present. Or you can go in and go, I love this beast. I'm going to go in and I'm going to party with this beast and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this because the beast and I are there for the same reason, and that's to go kick ass. So let's go party with the beast. And what that does is that removes all that fear, doubt, and overwhelm, and it causes you to do what you know you can do. So we would all look at each other before the SWAT operation and say, party with the beast. And it erased that fear from our hearts and our heads and allowed us to act.
I love that. That's strong. You know, and I think and people say to me a lot, Adam, you don't understand. That's just the way I was raised, or that's what I've always known, you know? And I don't believe, like, who am I? I think that's bullshit. I mean, it's probably a nice way to put it. I just don't like it. I think my mom didn't raise me to be fearless. I love my mom, but my mother got a real estate license. The only reason I ever wanted to get my real estate license, Adam, is she got her license and I wanted her to do well. And all of her broke friends just talked junk to her the entire time about how she couldn't do it. And she ended up just like not doing that for like a couple months. She tried a couple times and she would have been very good. She's smart. She was, charismatic. She cared about people. And I was like, she gave up on her, I don't want to say it was her dream, but her ability to change her situation. When you see people, how do you help educate them on, and I love what you said, scowl or smile. I got my insurance license. The guy said to me, I said, I had a tough day. He goes, yeah, no shit. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you don't smile. You scare the hell out of everybody. Why would they ever open the door? And I was like, well, kind of where I grew up, I was not going to smile a lot. Like, he educated me. He was a great guy. How do you help people stay focused, especially a lot of our folks that were here? They share that. Most of them are not, as far as like the education, their background. How do you help them tune out all that noise and all the people that are speaking into their lives negatively, which is what they tell me? I'm trying to get ahead. My environment, my this, my that. What's your best advice, Adam, to that person, whether they're going to work at Remax, they're selling insurance, they decide to get a second gig, they're doing an online business, whatever it is? What's the best advice you can give them to get rid of that noise and stay focused?
So something to think about here is, where is the noise coming from? Generally, the noise is up here. It's in your head and it's in your heart. Everybody else makes noise throughout society. And you said a couple of things when you started this question, and those were rationalized excuses. They were, you were throwing self-doubt out there as an example. Ultimately, as soon as we start rationalizing excuses, we say but or pause, and all that other garbage that starts coming out of our mouths, we're trying to figure out a way to not do what we need to do. We've been programmed in this society for some reason to rationalize excuses and delay doing things. Action is what wins. It's not perfection. It's action. Action will lead to getting things done right. Excuses and rationalized fear that creates that fear response, fight, flight, or freeze, that's what stops things from happening. That's what causes us to overthink, to second guess, to pause, to wait, things of that nature. And that's what a lot of the problems we have in society are that people have been given an out on everything instead of given an opportunity to go do. We always, it's okay. We tell people, we pat them on the back and go, it's okay. That's bullshit. We need to tell people, you know what? You're not going to know if you can do it until you go try. Give it a go and see what occurs, because 9 times out of 10, people are either going to succeed or they're going to learn, one or the other. So that's what it boils down to. I mean, in everything that we've done, everything that you've done, everything that I've done. But here's the variable here that I want everybody to think about, that you brought up also. Have a great attitude about it. Don't fight it. Enjoy it. And that's why I party with the beast. I mean, my SWAT team, we would sing songs. We're hanging off the side of the truck, going to a mission in the middle of the night. Everybody's in all their gear, and we'd be singing along as we're driving through a neighborhood, getting ready to get out and go bust a door, because we had so much fun doing it. And when you have this uplifted attitude and a smile on your face, you know what happens? You flow. You flow, and that energy goes from you to others, and they understand that you know what you're doing, you're confident, you're serious, and they want to do business with you regardless of what that business is.
Wow. I love that. I think I'd be freaked out if I saw a SWAT team coming down the street singing songs. It's intimidating enough when they're singing. That means you're focused and a little bit off, and I kind of like that. I'd be like, yo, whatever y'all want, you can have it. I'll open the door. You don't have to kick it down. I'm good. You talk about the ego, right? Lose the ego. I had an old mentor tell me, Shawn, you can't have a big business and a big ego at the same time. You have to pick one. He said, if you want a big ego, that's fine, but you will never have a big business. But if you want a big business, you'll put that aside. What is and I think we have people that, and I always remember too, that a lot of people don't have validation, so that doesn't mean you shouldn't be confident, but can you walk us through your definition of egotistical and how people lose it and what the detriment is if you can't control it?
Sure. And this is a great question. And I know you and I both kind of live under this philosophy of stay hungry, stay humble. And, the ego is about humility. Having an ego means you don't have humility. It means you're blocking out that humility and that vulnerability that we all have internally. The reality is nobody has ever harmed your ego that has caused you some sort of a physical indifference. Nobody's attacked you physically and harmed your ego. It's all emotional. Ego is emotionally attacked, period. And it's through criticism, it's through doubt, it's through fear, sound familiar? It's the beast, okay? So the reality is our ego is what causes us to try and put that self-protection between us and our beast. And generally, the bigger the ego, the bigger the problem, in my opinion. If you run into somebody who's got this giant ego, we can clearly see it when we start talking to people. They're the kind of person, okay, they're interested in themselves, not in me. They're interested in, it's self-serving. It's them first. There's, other than the word self, I don't know how else to describe it. But to get rid of the ego, you have to give. You have to just give unconditionally. This is one of the biggest problems in relationships also. So when you look at like a marriage, partnership, whatever it is, when there's an ego protecting one from the other, there's not 100% giving into that relationship. If we walk around in life and we're humble and we're appreciative of whatever we receive, and we say thank you gracefully to everything, and we give unconditionally into everything, we have no ego. And you know what? It's freeing. It's incredibly freeing. Everybody else notices that. Whether or not they can define it, they notice whether or not you have an ego. And your mentor friend who gave you that information, you can't have a big company if you have a big ego. He couldn't be more true. That is such wise information there, because in order to become a big company, to get a big company, you have to give unconditionally to others so that everybody wins. You're the last one to win, but you get to win the most when you're giving the most. So ultimately, egomaniacs, and I look for narcissism very quickly when it comes to business partnerships, different business relationships, things like that. And you'll notice that because people will blame everybody else. The person with the ego will blame everyone else. The person without the ego will say, you know what, my bad. I learned from that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be in that situation. And they gratefully take that feedback and love it and live it, as opposed to saying, oh, no, you screwed that up, or that's their fault, or you told me that, or, it's the old proverb of, when you're pointing your finger at somebody, be careful because there's three pointing back. The lack of ego recognizes that those three are the most powerful things in the world. How am I holding up the mirror and recognizing my actions and my interpretation of these situations?
You talk a lot, and you're present. I've researched you, but if you had asked me to read your information before I saw you, I would have thought of you differently. And what I mean by that is not in a negative, is for all the things you've accomplished and all the things you do, a lot of it is service and kindness. And like, I think that's awesome, by the way. I really do. I think that,
Thank you.
At the end of the day, I think that, you don't have, and when you're good at what you do, you don't have to tell people. You're good at it, and you can be really kind. You talk about that with the winning approach, right? Being present and being kind. I'd love, Adam, because it's so intriguing to me. And I love what, I want to get to that in a little bit, the whole real estate thing, because, I had a lot of friends of mine that got their real estate license, and I'd like to hear more about that, and a lot of females who are like, I'm just really uncomfortable, Shawn, honestly, going to these appointments. Like, I really don't want to, I'm doing an open house for 2 hours by myself. It's 45 minutes away. I want to get to that, but how do that winning approach, can you talk to us about being present, being kind, and you can win and be kind. You can kick ass and be kind, right? Like, y'all went out and did your mission and you were probably pretty kind. Now, if they were trying to kill you, not so kind, but can you walk us through your thought process on that? Cause it's really, pretty interesting for me in your approach, and I love it. It's different. I like it.
Well, it's funny when you think about that, because you have to ask yourself, why wouldn't I be kind? I mean, it's okay. Somebody tries to hurt you. Should you be angry, or should you go, oh, they tried to hurt me. I'm going to free flow through this because I love what I do. Sure, there are people out there that are bad that want to hurt you. I remember when I caught a serial killer. We caught a serial killer on a SWAT operation, and I walked up to him and I held the picture up next to his face and I said, okay, we got you. And he looked at me, he said, thank you. And just moments before that, we were playing this chess game in the woods with him and a gun, and me and a SWAT team and a bunch of guns. And we got him into our ambush and trap. and sprung it on him, put a bunch of lights on him. And I said, look, dude, you're not going to survive this, and you're not going to get anywhere, because I have 5 dog teams here also. And he stepped forward and he gave up and he said, thank you. And I think it was that moment where I realized that, okay, yeah, he's a terrible human being for what he's done. And he was addicted to killing people, but he was also willing to have a little bit of kindness in the moment. And we were kind back, and we were professional. That was one thing I always stressed is, I don't care how difficult the situation is, let's be professionals. And, no matter how hard the field of play is for a sports figure, for a business person in negotiation, let's say you're on the stand in court or something like that. If you're kind and professional, people will recognize that, and it will pay you back at some point. And that becomes the fabric of your being. That becomes how you operate. So when you take a look at how should we approach somebody, like in traffic, somebody cuts you off, honks the horn, flips you the bird, whatever it is. Why do you have to react? Why can't you just smile and wave and say, thank you, have a wonderful day, I hope yours gets better? And just throw some gratitude their way. There's no reason to raise your blood pressure and deal with the garbage in society because people want to fly off the handle. And that truly doesn't improve business either. It doesn't help a negotiation. Ask all your friends in real estate. What's the first thing that happens? You get an agent that calls you up and they're like, look, we're going to do it this way. And you're like, I love your passion for this, but let's both calm down and figure this out, because there's a solution in here someplace.
So, and I think that's huge too, because, for me, business has never been emotional per se. Like I love what I do, and I do. And, and I can take it up. I can get better. Listening to you makes me need to get better. But I think that's part of it too, Adam. We have a lot of folks that they watch too many old movies, and they somehow think that's the art of negotiation, and I sold real estate for 10 years, and I did a lot of repeat business. And I told people the reason I did that was I was trying to buy a lot for a certain amount of money. Okay. And I did want to do good for me. But if I screwed somebody over, I could only do that once. Number one, I don't want to do it, but I can only do it once. Just like you could screw me over one time, then I'm not going to do business with you again. But you'd get me one time. But if I'm in the business for a long time, I don't see why not having these. And we could be friendly competitors. I go to the meeting and be like, you're the one that bought it? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, damn, Adam. Like, but we could do that. But there was a lot more in it. Can you talk to us about building healthy competitive relationships along the way and understand how to build your team and still coexist with everybody else and what that really looks like? Because, and I need to tell you, when you talk about people trying to hurt you, yet you still being kind, I mean, like, dude, you're on a different level as long as you understand that. Like, we're all human beings too. We're trying, but like for any of you that were feeling bad about yourselves when you're listening to that, yeah, me too. Like, and I'm trying to grow every day, but I mean that. And I'm not saying we can't get there, but that's a pretty, let's just take business. Let's forget about weapons and SWAT teams. Let's take business. Somebody's trying to do something that I guess financially could harm you. Can you help? Like, if everybody on here was on your team, we brought you in to consult, and everybody watching right now is on Adam's team, and we're like, and we're competing. How can you walk us through and teach us how important these relationships are? Because we've never met, but if we were in business, I want to be in business with you. Sounds weird. I'm just saying, like, I mean, like, I'd enjoy being, if you're doing something, you're like, I need somebody to invest, or I need somebody to do something, I'd be interested. Like, at the end, we'll talk about how to find you, and, hell, I'll bring in our company. We just did a meeting in Miami, had 15,000 people there. What you bring to the table is a lot. And but how do you teach people that law of attraction, if you will, that creating these important relationships and bonds with people in business?
I think the first thing you need to get people to understand is the concept of trust. And, you can't do business if there's not trust. If you are trying to do business and there's no trust built up, then there's always this question of doubt. And there's this, there is the beast present. There's this fear that you're going to show too many cards, you're going to do something that's going to, screw you over or put you in a corner or something like that. You've got to trust yourself, and you have to give this other person the amount of trust that they have earned, and let them spend their trust account the way that they deem necessary. I view trust as, I'm going to build as much trust with you as I possibly can. I'm going to build as much trust in my relationships as I possibly can by giving into those relationships. And that trust allows me to make different transactions in how we communicate. So I might call you up and go, Shawn, hey, we're in the middle of this transaction, and I just wanted to touch base with you and communicate with you and give you an update on it. You're like, all right, great. Thanks, Adam. And then a couple of days later, I might call you up and go, Shawn, hey, I wanted to just touch base with you again. Yeah, we're still in this transaction. There's one thing that you and I need to kind of work through because, we're up to the point where we were last time, but this other hitch came up, and I think we can work through it because we're communicating really well, things of that nature. And you're like, well, wait a sec. This guy's trying to, we're problem solving together. And we're doing that because we started communicating and we're started trusting each other, and he deposited into this trust account. Yeah, he's going to have to withdraw a little bit because I don't like what this is, but he's being kind enough. Remember that other word we just talked about. And his intention is, let's try and work our way through this together. So ultimately it comes down to, you're going to end up in conflict, but how much trust you build into that conflict and how well you communicate and create clarity and set expectations, big word there, expectations, is important, not just in business, but in, your personal relationships, in, who knows what it is, a friendship you haven't seen for decades, whatever it is. Set expectations, communicate trust, build into that, and then watch the barriers start to come down and watch people start to understand, okay, there are good people out there. Because if you're dealing with somebody who's doing nothing but looking for the worst case scenario, they're going to show that real quick when you're trying to deposit trust in their account, and you're going to go, oh, wait a sec, red flag. All right, I'm going to overdo the love in this one and see what we end up with. I'm going to break through this trust barrier. I'm going to build on this relationship, and I'm going to be able to do something with them. Shawn, this doesn't have to be an active relationship though either. This can be a one-way relationship. I mean, you're on social media, on YouTube, things like that, and people are learning from you when they don't even know you. You've never met them face to face. You've never communicated with them anyway, but they're learning trust from you right now because they're learning about you. I've had people call me and say, I want to do a big business deal with you. I'm like, do I know you? And they go, no, but I've watched your videos. I've learned about you through your reputation. Big one there, reputation. And I believe that I should trust you as a result of that. So it comes down to constant deposits of kindness, communication, expectations, my values, who am I, what am I about, and why am I here? And this will work for both of us.
Oh, that's deep. That's really good. Thank you. Safety. People ask me a lot. I work at a company. I run a company's got 27,000 life insurance agents. I've been at big real estate companies. I work with child protective services, worker, and I mean, it's not gender specific. I'm just saying, like, a lot of the women will say to me, or the husbands will call me, hey man, like, my wife's going to go out in the field. Tell me about that. I'm like, well, she's going to call people up that filled something out. She doesn't know them. And she is going to, a lot of it's virtual nowadays, but still a lot of it's face to face. For men, women, whomever watching this, what are some things because obviously you have a wealth of experience, you've written about it, you've trained on it. What are some things people need to know? I mean, they're going into people's homes or meeting them somewhere they don't know who they are and they don't have any relationship at all. What would be some things you would say, some advice you'd give people, or some parameters they need to work under, or just general statements?
So avoiding a criminalization or a criminal act of some sort, being victimized, it comes down to some simple parameters. Now, everything's different, and somebody who's been victimized might go, oh, it hit me out of the blue. I had no idea. There's nothing I could do. That's fine. There's no perfect 100% solution here, but there are ways to minimize the opportunities of bad people doing bad things to you. The first one is awareness. And I'm going to give you 4 keywords here. It's awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, and response. So aware, avoid, de-escalate, respond. So awareness is the first one. Obviously, you look for these red flags, ask them questions. If they struggle with the questions, verify things, but be kind. Be extremely kind when you're doing this, because they may be, when you're asking financial questions, you're asking personal questions, things like that, there's going to be this level of protection that people have. But establish policies in your company and say, we require, before we have a face-to-face meeting, that we have received electronically a photo of your ID, and we're going to verify this is you. We're going to call you back and make sure, and then we're going to Google you to ensure that things seem to be lining up. They're going to be like, well, I'm not on Google, I'm not on social media, whatever. Some people aren't, but most people are. You should be able to do a little bit of research just based on what's on the internet, as well as get a photo or a copy of their information and their personal information if you're dealing with, financial or insurance or something like that. So ask questions first. Pre-qualify these people in some way, shape, or form. Generally, those that are kind of the low-hanging fruit of victimization will leave the situation, or you'll start to see some discrepancies in what they're saying. So be aware of them. Second, when you go and you show up someplace, if it does not look like a good place, have an out, have a plan B. Okay, hey, I'd prefer to meet you over here at Starbucks, or at the, we have an office over here, a shared office space, or something like that. Would love to go meet you there. I don't necessarily think, unless you're a real estate agent who's going to go list a house, that, it's even necessary to go into somebody's house. You can do a lot of this over video or over Zoom, things like that, or meet someplace else. So, find a way to meet them. If you don't feel right there, take somebody with you or meet them someplace else. Having a partner is always a good plan. And ultimately, that partner doesn't need to go inside with you. They can sit out in the car so that they can call for help if something's going on, or they can't get in touch with you. Have some text messages or something like that going on. I've even seen people walk in with, an AirPod in, and they've got the phone call going with the person in the car, and they're listening to make sure everything's good to go. And then they get off the call once they figure out that it's okay. So awareness, avoidance. So that plays from awareness of recognizing and relocating when necessary, having options. Options are always fantastic. If this is not going to work out right, my plan B is this, my plan C is this. I know what those are. I've rehearsed them in my head, and I'm prepared to make those actions. So awareness, avoidance, de-escalation is, okay, you get into something. Shawn, it's great. I appreciate everything you've done for me today. You want my wallet. Here's my wallet. I'm leaving right now. No harm, no foul. I'm getting out of here. You're good. It's safe for you. I'm leaving, so it's safe for me. Thank you. That's the easiest way to get out of something. De-escalation might also be turn and run like crazy. We hear, am I dressed for this? It's kind of hard to run in heels or in dress shoes or something like that. Or maybe it's icy or muddy or who knows what it is. Just get the hell out of there if you can get the hell out of there. And then response is the last thing. If you have to fight to win. That could mean picking up anything and using it as a weapon. I always carry a flashlight with me. Flashlight shining in somebody's eyes, even during the daytime, is a little bit disorienting, but it's also good for just hammering on their face if you have to start beating on them with it. Other things you can use, you can hit somebody with your iPhone, for crying out loud. You can use a coffee cup. You can, if you have a hot cup of Starbucks in your hand, you can throw it on them, something like that. But do something if somebody's attacking you and get out of there. So just don't be a victim. Don't roll over and play dead, because that doesn't necessarily work with human beings. Okay. So awareness, avoidance, de-escalation, response. It basically gives you 4 plans for dealing with increasing your safety. And it's better than having no plans for increasing your safety. Ultimately, it boils down to minimizing your odds by trying these 4 things. And as you work your way through this chess game, you will notice stuff that causes you to relocate, reassign this to somebody else, bring somebody else in the loop, notify authorities. You can play a lot of little tricks in there, but do something.
Well, thank you. That was a lot. That was, cause you don't think, you got to think about all those things. You got to be aware. I mean, you got to pay attention. I understand people's concern. Adam, talk to us about your book, Start with a Win. First of all, the proceeds go to Children's Miracle Network?
Yes.
Make-A-Wish Foundation?
Yeah, Children's Miracle Network, so children's hospitals, 100% of the author proceeds.
Where do you live, Adam? What state?
I live in Denver, or south of Denver.
So we used to do a lot of work, Children's Miracle Network in Connecticut. So small world, a lot of work. It was an amazing organization. Talk to us about the book. And how do we get it? How do we find it? How do we read it? Because it would, by the way, if you listen to Adam, then obviously no one knows the shit is going to help you. So that would be good. But also, do something right and give back and help support some people that are at need. How do they, tell us a little bit about the book, and then how do they get access to it? And Adam, how do they get access to anything you're doing? How do they find you? So I want to wrap up with that. And that's very important to me because you are doing it. You have done it. You do know it. I'd love for everybody that's watching today to be able to get access to some of the knowledge you have.
Thanks, Shawn. So first of all, I'm on all the social channels. Adam Contos, CEO, is my handle on pretty much everything. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And then you can find Start With A Win. You can go to startwithawin.com, which also takes you to adamcontos.com. Same page. You can access all my social channels materials from there. You can see my book. My book's available on Amazon. It's called Start With A Win, which is the same title as my podcast, Start With A Win. And essentially, it's tools and lessons for personal and business success. It was written based upon my history in law enforcement and military, all the way through being the CEO of a public company. And now I'm actually buying companies and reinvesting this into them. I retired from being the CEO of Remax March of last year and been growing other businesses since then.
Well, guys, I'm telling you, Adam, I just love your knowledge, and I love the way you present it. It's easy to, the pace is great. You're intellectual, but it's relatable, and your composure is different. And I think we could all benefit from that. So I can't tell you how much I've loved to have you on. I'm sure we're going to see you again. I'm like the guy that called you. I'd love to be in business with you. So we'll figure out what we can do and get you in front of some of our folks. So it's been an outstanding day, guys. I really appreciate you jumping on. I hope this episode of Punch Me in the Face helped you. Adam definitely can help you defend yourself, and also through your kindness, maybe avoid the situation to begin with and be more successful. So Adam, my man, you're one hell of a success story. So thanks for joining us today, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Shawn. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.